How were you, Tubi?
I'm great. How's it been?
It's not too bad. Weather is kind of crap, but it's all good over here. So this topic for this podcast episode, we are going to be talking about what we learned about money in our 20s and 30s. What have you learned, Tubi?
What have I learned? I've learned the importance of saving money and the importance of having an emergency savings. Because when I got laid off from my job and I needed to have a savings account, or if I didn't have a savings account, or if I didn't have any emergency savings, I didn't know how I was going to pay rent, how I was going to make ends meet.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat. So I got laid off from my job, and it was the scariest feeling ever because of all the unknowns that could potentially happen in the future. But luckily, I did also have an emergency savings, and I had about 6 months worth saved up, which is the bare minimum that you should have, right? You want to talk a little bit about what to put in your emergency savings? I mean, what is an emergency savings?
So emergency savings is pretty much used when you lose your primary source of income, or you get laid off, which is what it means to lose your primary source of income, or if you didn't have multiple sources of income, you only had one source of income. That's the main point of having an emergency savings. And having that emergency savings is pretty much putting around 6 months to 12 months of what you spend. So that would include rent, utilities, food, transportation, things like that. And I would also recommend
the easier way to think about it is, what are you spending on your life right now in 1 month? So the easiest way that you can do it is if you have one spending account that you're spending on. Let's say you have an American Express credit card that you're spending on. What you would suggest is taking a look at your monthly statement, taking a look at how many things you are buying. So there are a million ways that you can go about it. But the easiest way is to look at your statement. Now, if you want to be really technical, you have to look at your variable costs, your fixed costs. So fixed costs meaning like rent, trash, water, your bill for your credit cards, your car payment, anything that's fixed monthly that you need in order to survive and function. Variable costs are like, going out, having dinner, having Grubhub or Uber Eats on your phone and ordering food from there. What we would suggest to you is take a look at what your fixed cost is per month. Anything that's recurring that you need in 1 month, we need you to have that in your emergency savings. So let's say everything in total with your car payments, housing payments, all your fixed costs are $5,000 per month. You'll need to save up 6 months of that. 5 times 6 is 30. So 30 of that you'll need to put into your emergency savings. And that's just the bare minimum to survive and not be homeless and be thrown in the streets, right?
I agree. What do you think are some variable costs that we should decrease on? Let's just say what's happening right now in the economy is that there's an increasing amount of layoffs, increasing amount of unemployed individuals. What do you think is one variable cost that people should delete or should remove from their life? I believe one of those things are streaming services, or at least minimize that and not having to have more than one main one. So I know there's certain individuals that have Netflix, HBO Max, Hulu, but is it really necessary to have 5, 6, even 7 streaming services? I will say that it's better than having cable, because cable is way more expensive. Do you think we should actually decrease the amount of monthly subscriptions, such as streaming services?
Yeah, we can always decrease it. We're talking about making a new podcast, where is it better to decrease and be frugal and save? Or is it better to keep all of the things that you have currently right now in your life and just make more money? It's like that. What are you willing to lose? What are you willing to decrease in your life? Netflix and HBO Max, are those important to you? Maybe it's important for some. I do have HBO Max and Netflix, and I do enjoy it, and I do think it's worth it. But I agree, some other subscription services are redundant. They lack entertainment. And so you just have to ask yourself, what are you willing to lose? What is it that you can do in your life financially where you can say, okay, this is something that I no longer need moving forward, so I'm going to cut this out of my life. But that is really hard to do because we feel like everything is important. We feel like, oh, we need this. With emergency savings, you can absolutely put your fixed costs and your variable costs in there, and you can certainly prepare once the time comes, if you are ever laid off from your job, is that even if you are laid off, you can still enjoy all of your subscriptions and still live in a house. It's all up to you. It's all up to how you structure your emergency savings. But you really have to ask yourself, what are you willing to lose? And what are you willing to keep? And you have to be really true and honest with yourself. You can't just accept everything as necessity if it's really not.
Yes, I agree with what you said. One tip I do recommend is that not only just looking at your monthly bills, but jotting down some notes, looking at every single purchase that you make, whether it be fixed or variable. How can you decrease it, or should you remove it? Let's just say clothing. For all the clothing that you have spent and bought, how many times have you used it or worn it? If you haven't worn it that often, is it because you don't like it? Should you decrease on spending on clothing? Maybe. Do you really need to spend on these things? And should it be part of your emergency savings? So I guess the main takeaway here is to always look at what you're buying and what you're spending. Just maybe a couple months. Look at your past credit card statements and your monthly bills for the past 6 months. Jot down some notes and think about how much did you spend that you actually need, and how much have you spend that's for variable that you have used in the past 6 months. Was it necessary or was it not? And moving forward, maybe you can take it out, and that is how you can actually decrease on your consumption.
But for me, I like having just repeated clothes and buy the same thing over and over again. I think it's more luxurious that way. Because if you just have a black t-shirt and black pants, you don't know if the t-shirt is Prada. So there's kind of like a mysterious, luxurious feel to it. We'll talk more about that later. But the second thing that we learn about money in our 20s and our 30s is don't save anymore. Invest your money. You want to talk about investing just a little bit in this podcast?
Yes, I do. I think we were brought up in an environment where cash is king, and that we should put everything into a savings account and because it's the safest. Actually, it's not the safest, because due to inflation, the amount that you're putting into your savings account is actually decreasing year over year. And it seems like it stays the same. It actually isn't. You can actually buy less. So this is why I like to invest. I wouldn't say to invest all your money, but I would say to invest a good amount of your money. And what does that mean? I would have a certain amount of money to invest, and I keep a certain amount in cash to use to buy stocks or index funds, or you name it. Any asset that increases in value. And having that cash gives me the ability to purchase during downtimes or during the bear market, like what's happening right now. If I didn't have that cash savings, then I wouldn't be able to invest more into these assets. And because that, I think that compound interest is very important. I think that's even better than just saving money. There's no way you can save enough money to buy or purchase a house. You can only do so by saving and investing.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I have a question for you. What is the inflation rate right now?
Bruh.
Well, the inflation rate before this whole economic quote unquote collapse, right? The recession that we're having is hovering how much? Like 3% to 7%? I didn't get an update on that. But what inflation means is that you're basically, your cash right now is losing money. And so that's the problem with Asians in general. You know, us Asian Americans were taught, save your money, put in a savings account. And we hear stories of Asians putting cash into their mattresses, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you have 20 grand in your mattress or savings, you're losing money. What I saw, because I used to work at a credit union, and the savings annual percentage yield for a savings account, depending on the dollar amount that you have, was around 0.19%. And if you are putting 20K into a savings account at 0.19%, guess what? You're losing money. You're absolutely losing money. But if you take a look at the S&P 500, things that have historically have good returns, you're going to sustain your money, even make a good amount of money, a good amount of return for the year. So that's one of the tips that we have is it's good to have an emergency savings. It's good to have savings when crap hits the fan. It's better to have money into investments. Own a company. Damn, own Apple. The one thing that you can do for yourself is owning businesses and owning part of businesses. That's how you accumulate good wealth. And what you're saying where, savings for a house. You're not going to have that. You're not going to be able to do that where you save for a house. It's, with your 9-to-5 job, especially when you're like us in San Francisco, where the real estate market is ridiculous. You're not going to be able to buy a house when you're just saving. So what we want you to do is to invest. And in your 20s and 30s, we suggest that you invest aggressively. Take risks. Don't put it in bonds. I mean, put in bonds, but don't have the majority of your funds to be in bonds. Actually own companies. Own companies that are generating revenue every year. Look at their statements. Look at their annual statements. And it's better for you that way rather than having it in a savings.
I do agree with that. I mean, having savings account is the bare minimum. But how do you level up? It's to invest. Because over time, your money's worth less and less if it's just staying into an account, into your savings account, or just staying under your mattress with just cash. I don't know why would you do that? Because it's dirty. Always invest. Consistently invest. Invest into quality companies that are consistently generating revenue, consistently profitable. And I would also recommend investing into index funds because consistently investing into index funds have proven to outpace inflation. And to talk about taking risks, I think that individuals our age in their 20s and 30s should take more risk than they are if they were in their 50s or 60s. The reason being is that if you're in your 20s or 30s, you have that time. You have time to accumulate your wealth. You have time for interest to compound. You have time to make more money. But as you get older and older, and when you retire, you need that money to live. And that is why I recommend adjusting the amount that you have in stocks and in bonds, which is something that we'll be talking about in a later podcast. How much should we allocate in bonds? How much we should allocate in stocks? And should you be investing into different assets like commodities, gold, silver, or even crypto?
And that's one of the, I think it's a criminal act that we never learned this in our schools. I mean, we do get tips from our parents, but all they say is save. It's a different paradigm with us Asian Americans, is that, I mean, we do love money. We really love money. But at the same time, not a lot of us know how to invest. Not a lot of us know how to properly invest or allocate money the way we should. And so I think it's time, the earlier the better, like you said, especially in your 20s. When you get out of high school, it's imperative that you invest, because like you said, it's going to compound. And with that compound, you are going to be a millionaire once you retire. Easily. And you can retire in your 40s or 50s. It can happen. But you just have to start early. But that doesn't mean that if you're in your 40s or 50s, like everything's over for you. It's better late than never. But it's better to start now. Don't hold it off. You better start now. Like, the best time to do it is now. The best time was yesterday or 10 years ago. The next best time is now. You can't just keep holding it off and saying, oh, I'll just do this later. Like, no. If you want real results, if you want to, get out of the rat race, whatever goals that you may have individually, the best time to do it was yesterday. Second best time is to do it now.
To add on to that, I've noticed that many individuals are afraid of investing. They're afraid of losing their money. But I think most of those people don't understand what's inflation. Because I have many friends that think that whatever's money is in their savings account, or whatever they have in their wallet is theirs to keep. And if they just keep it in there forever, they'll never lose money. And that's why I think they should really look up what's inflation. What it means to be your $10 right now was worth more 10 years ago. You could buy more back then than you could buy right now. And to add on to that, where you said you should invest right now, I really do mean that you should invest right now, and not tomorrow, and not next year, and not when the bear market's over. You should never try to time the market.
No.
You can never time the market. It's really hard to time the market and say, oh, this is the bottom. This is when I'm going to get in. No one knows. I don't know. You don't know. Neither do anyone on CNBC or any analyst out there. And if they say they can, then they'll be really, really rich. And you should definitely
stay away.
Turn off that television. Turn off that YouTube channel when they say, I am the best investor.
Exactly.
I can accurately pinpoint the bottom.
No. If they say that, stay away from them. Don't take financial advice from them. But hey, it's all up to you. With I Am Money, we are trying to give you tips and tricks. We are trying to inform you. We are trying to have you be a better consumer. With investing, it's all up to your individual preferences, right? So with investing, of course, there are some risks. We would highly suggest to put it into index funds. But the one thing that you need to keep in mind is that if you invest it, have the mentality of you already lost that money. So let's say if you are investing $100 into an index fund, that $100 is no longer yours. You already lost that money. The thing I say that is because you are setting yourself up for success, and you are not going to be too disappointed if there is a bear market, because you have already said to yourself, I no longer own that money. It's the markets now. Be willing to lose a certain amount of money. Don't just put it all into one company or put it all into index funds. But if you do, try to have an expectation that you lost that money. With bear markets, timing bear markets, bull markets, that's all bullshit, right? So like we said, it's stay away from them. There are some people who can time it, but not really. When you see all these day traders timing the markets, I mean, if you and I day trade, your profits, your P&L, my profits will be not the same as yours. Why? Why is that? Well, that's just because it's different timing. So you have to be wary of who you get your information from. You can never time the markets perfectly. So that's the safest way to invest, is to put it into an index fund to start off.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about how people were so excited to invest in 2020 and 2021. And people were investing into meme stocks, crypto. And why? Because it was going up. This is how you're not supposed to invest. You are not supposed to invest when the market is at its highest. Or what does it mean to be at its highest? When you see everyone trying to put in their money and invest into the next best stock, investing into Cathie Wood's ARK fund because it made 300, 400%, all to drop 70% in the next year, erasing all its gains over the past 3 years. I'm not saying Cathie ARK isn't a good investor, but what I'm trying to say is that no one should be trying to time the market, number one. Number two, you shouldn't be spending or investing most of your money during bull markets. That's when you're making money. And that's when you're supposed to be saving money. You should be saving money during bull markets because that's when things are getting more overpriced. And when should you be investing more money or using some of that cash that you saved up during a bull market is during a bear market, because that's when things are getting cheaper. Would you buy clothing or products that are not on sale? Maybe you would, but would you want to buy even more when you get a 30% clearance, a 40% clearance, 50, 60, 70% clearance? Why not? If that company is stable, that is when you should buy into it, when it is at a discount. And that is same for stocks, same for index funds, and that is same for investing. Why would you want to buy in at its highest when it's overpriced? If you don't do it for other things, why would you do it for stocks and investing? Don't buy into hype, consistently invest. Don't always go into the next best meme stock. You see it all over the news. Oh, this stock will triple your money. And you'll see the next best YouTuber saying, oh, buy this stock. You can 10x your money in the next 5 days. Trade options, and then you can make $100,000 in 10 minutes. Don't believe in that. Unsubscribe and watch our channel.
Yeah, so the point we're trying to make here is that it's all about opportunity. So you have to look at what the sheep, quote unquote sheep, are doing in the market. So if you are seeing that the market is trending up, you know how that line is trending up and up and up, you wouldn't want to buy into that market because, like you said, it's overpriced. You want it to be in a sale. What's a sale? That's a bear market. What's a bear market? Well, that's when the line is going down and you see it going down and everything is in red. Why is it in red? Well, there are a lot of factors that go into that. We won't get into that right now. But essentially, people are selling all of their assets in the market, and that's why you see that line go down. And that's an opportunity for you as an investor to buy in so you can maximize your profits